Man, I'm glad y'all are here today. It's going to be an awesome series that we're kicking off today on marriage. And I think I heard a couple ladies sniffling during that song. The thing is with marriage and relationships, they're so intimate, aren't they? I mean, they really affect every part of your soul. And maybe you've gone through this, maybe a breakup or somebody that you really just put yourself out there. You gave your heart to them. You thought that it was mutual, and you've been hurt, man. And maybe some of you, you're in a marriage relationship, and even with your spouse, that's kind of where you're at. And the thing is marriage and relationships, man, they go to the core of us. And so this topic, I just want to say, whether you're married right now, whether someday you hope to be married, whether you're single, whether you're separated, whether you're divorced, I believe that this series is going to speak into your life about what God desires, what God designed the marriage relationship, the marriage covenant to actually be. How many of you ladies, let's be honest, let's give a little bit of a shout out, a little bit of callback to me. This won't be fun if I'm the only one like here. So let's engage each other a little bit, right? And so let's just ask this, ladies. How many of you ladies, like growing up, dreamed about your wedding? You dreamed about what that day would be. You dreamed about the dress you would wear. Some of you already named your kids like when you were 10, right? Some of you had this dream of what this husband would be and coming home and like this picture of what your house would be. You had this dream. Now, some of you guys, how many of you guys, you've had this dream about getting married, and you didn't dream about all that other stuff, right, guys? You dreamed about having sex twice a day and then 3 times on Sunday. And let me just ask, how many of you are still dreaming, right? You've been married 10 years now, and you're still dreaming of the day that those dreams come to pass. And the truth is that oftentimes what we imagine marriage to be, what we think it's going to be, oftentimes, we're let down. And the reason why is because so often we have wrong expectations of our spouse and what marriage is. And so what we're going to do in this series is going to clarify some of that. Now, the sad thing, and you know this, you know some of the statistics, that marriages most likely, statistically speaking, end in divorce. More marriages will end in divorce than stay together. Somewhere around you have, if you're getting married, maybe you are married, recent newlyweds, you're engaged, something like that. Statistically, only about 45% will last. Only about 45% will make it. The odds are against you. And some of you, you've been divorced. You know that. You understand that. Some of you, you're in a tough situation right now in the marriage, and you understand that. You feel that statistic. And so maybe you're wondering, for you personally, is it possible for you to have an amazing marriage that is fulfilling, that is meaningful, that really does meet needs in your life? Is it possible? Yes, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, yes, it is possible for your life. The spouse you have right now, not like the next one. I mean, the spouse you have right now, you're like, it is possible. Bye-bye. No, listen. Yes, it is possible. Lean in. But it's not likely. You heard the statistics, right? If you live like everyone else, it's not likely. If you just do marriage the way you best figure out how some of your friends are doing it, how your coworkers are doing it, how your other family members are doing it, if you do it like everyone else, most likely it's not possible. So what we're going to do in this series is we're going to make some commitments, and we're going to say, we're not going to do it like everyone else, because what everyone else is doing most likely isn't going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, what does the Word of God say about marriage? How did God design marriage to be for our lives? And we're going to do it differently than others. We're going to make some commitments and say we're going to do it God's way, and we're going to have results in our lives that other people don't have in their lives. So no matter where you're at in your marriage, if you are married, and every marriage has struggles, every marriage has conflict, every marriage has some issues. And so no matter where you're at in your marriage, maybe you were fighting last night, maybe you've been giving each other the silent treatment the last couple of days, no matter where you're at. Maybe you've had a great marriage, but it's plateaued. Let me just say this. In this series, from this day forward, this is what I want you to do. Make this commitment. Seriously, right now, you're married. Make this commitment. Forgive everything in the past. Say whatever we argued about, whatever was between us, whatever the problem was, from this day forward, we're moving on. From this day forward, we're going to forgive, we're going to extend love, we're going to extend mercy. From this day forward, our lives change, our relationship change, our home changes. From this day forward, we're looking to the future. And you make that commitment right now, so over the next 5 parts of this series, that you open yourself up and allow God to speak to you. From this day forward, forget the past. So, this is what we're going to do. Over the next 5 weeks, is we're going to cover 5 commitments, and so I'll tell them to you, and we're going to memorize these together. First, we're going to cover this today, so we're going to seek God. Say, seek God. We're going to fight fair. We're going to have fun. We're going to stay pure. And we're going to never quit. We're going to seek God. We're going to fight fair. We're going to have fun. We're going to stay pure. We're going to never quit. Say that with me. We're going to seek God. We're going to fight fair. We're going to have fun. We're going to stay pure. We're going to never quit. Memorize that. Make these commitments in your life. And each week we're going to describe this and talk about it and really dig down into what it means for your life. And some of you single people, pay attention. Pay attention these next couple of weeks, because this could absolutely change your life in amazing ways. So let's talk about what this means. First off, seek God. You and I are going to have to seek God if we're going to have a marriage that is fulfilling, that is meaningful, and that really meets the needs in your life the way they need to. We're going to have to seek God. Listen to what it says in Matthew 19. Verse 4, it says, haven't you read, this is Jesus speaking, people are asking him about marriage and about divorce, and so Jesus replies, and this is what Jesus says. It says, haven't you heard that at the what? Beginning. Okay, just pause for a second. At the beginning, the way that God created things, the way that God intended things to be, the way that God set things up, at the beginning, the Creator made them male and female. And he said, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one. They're no longer two, but one. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. So, marriage is God's idea. Write that down. Marriage is God's idea. This isn't something that you came up with. This isn't something that centuries ago, generations ago, people said, hey, I got an idea. You leave your family, live with me, let's make a new family. No, God designed us that way. God's idea was marriage. And so in your life and in my life, he created us, he programmed us, he gave us relational needs in our lives, he gave us emotional needs in our lives, he created us with sexual needs in our lives, and then he said marriage is the way to meet these needs. And so God designed us, and he created us, and he designed marriage, programmed marriage for our lives to meet these needs. And so for you and I to say, God, move out of the way, we're going to do it ourselves, is so backwards. So we're going to have to seek God because he's the one that came up with it. He's the one that created it, designed it, programmed it. And so for us to actually operate in it properly, for us to get the full fulfillment out of it that we desire, we have to include God. We're going to have to seek God. We cannot do it on our own. And I know some people that have little to no relationship with God. They wouldn't consider themselves a Christian. They're not into that whole Christian thing, and yet they've been married for 25, 30 years. And it's possible. It is. It's possible for two people to stay together that long, even without God. But let me just present this to you. You will never have the fulfillment in a marriage covenant the way that God designed it to meet your needs without him. You could tough it out, you could stay together, you could have a little bit of fun in life, and 50 years later, one of you die or whatever, but you're never going to meet that full potential that a marriage has without God, because he designed it, he programmed it, and we need him to be part of it. That makes sense? You with me? You following? All right, so let's talk a little bit about seeking God. So often in life, and maybe you've seen movies like this, maybe you have friends, maybe you yourself have experienced this. You're in this dating scene, you're trying to find somebody, and you meet this, ladies, you meet this really great guy. And I don't know what ladies say, but you go over to your girlfriends, you're like, oh, he's got such a cute little butt, and he listens to you. Oh, that's the best I can do. That's all I got. But you meet this guy and you're saying, oh, he listens to me and he talks and we communicate and he's not like any other guy. And then you tell your girlfriend, I think he's the one, right? Or your girlfriend's, is he the one? Like, I think he's the one. So I'm telling you, that's the best I've got, all right? And so, or guys, man, you're like, I've dated a lot of girls, and that's the best I've got too. Okay, but now these guys, you find this person, you're like, man, they're not like anyone else. They treat me different. They make me feel different. We connect on a level, right? We're soulmates, and they make me happy, and they meet these needs in my life, and maybe they're the one. And so we got this idea that we have to meet the one. Well, let me just present this idea to you, because it's true in our culture, this idea that in order for us to be fulfilled, we have to meet the one. We have to have a connection with the one. That is true. The problem with that is a spouse is not the one. God has to be the one. And in order for you to have a fulfilling marital relationship, God has to be the one and your spouse must be the two. If you're taking notes, write that down. God is your one and your spouse is your two. God is your one, your spouse is your two. What would it be like if the girls are together and the girl runs over there, oh, he's so cute little butt, and we talk and all that, and I think I met my two. And all the ladies are like, huh? Well, the truth is that in our lives, we have to make God number one. We are going to have to seek God. And in a marriage relationship, together seeking God. Here's the thing is that so often in life, we have this desire, and you have this dream for what your marriage is going to be or what your life is going to be like. And so you say, I want this nice house. I want this nice family. I want a marriage relationship where we mutually respect each other and we're connected at this deeper level where they understand me like nobody else understands me. We finish each other's sentences. You complete me, or whatever some movie title might be. You've got this dream of what you want it to be. How are you going to get that? How are you going to force that to happen? What could you possibly do to stack the deck in a way to make that happen? If you're searching after those things, I got to tell you, they're always going to be arm's length away. You're always going to be grabbing and missing it. And here's the reason why. Matthew 6:33, it says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and then all these things will be given to you as well. You want all that good stuff for your life, all that good stuff for your marriage. There's not anything wrong with that. In fact, God wants you to have those things. The problem is you can't search after those things. Those things cannot be first place in your life. You cannot work hard enough to create it yourself. The answer to this issue is seeking God first. And when you and your spouse seek God together, and he becomes the priority of your lives and of your relationship and of your home and of your family, then all those other beneficial things and the things that you want, God can then give them to you. But you're never going to create them on your own. If you're taking notes, if you're not married, let me speak to you that are not married just for a second. This needs to be your confession. This needs to be your decree. If you are not married, I will seek the one while preparing for my two. I will seek the one while preparing for my two. And this is what I want to submit to you. You cannot sit there, make yourself pretty enough, make yourself attractive enough. Guys, you can't make yourself stick out enough to get the attention that you need in order to attract the person that you actually want. You can't do it. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to seek the one. And a lot of you in here, you're at church because you have this desire to live your life for God. You have this desire to be a Christian, to honor God with your life. I believe that. Some of you, maybe you're here because you have to be, but these principles still are true for you just as much as for anyone. But I think a majority of you in here today, you're single. In fact, if you're single, you are not married, just raise your hand. Raise your hand. You're single. Everyone just look around, hook up with someone. All right, I'm doing y'all a favor right now. Okay, hands down. Okay, so this is the thing, is that instead of seeking a spouse, seek God. You know, I've heard stories, and you've seen people like this. Maybe they grew up in church. They knew about God. They called themselves a Christian. They go to college. They get involved in the party scene. They start drinking. The drinking turns to drugs. Then it becomes one person after another, one person after another, one person after another, this dating cycle of hooking up, breaking up, hooking up, breaking up. What happens at the end of that after a couple of years where this person that really meets your criteria of what you want? Somebody that in a Christian environment, I'm going to say most of you have this desire. I want someone that loves God. I want somebody that's going to respect me. I want somebody that's going to help me build this life together that honors God. What's going to happen when you meet that person that loves God, that's going to respect their spouse, that's going to help create a family that honors God, but yet you are living a life that doesn't? If you're single, don't search for the two. Don't search for the spouse. If you're single, seek God. Live your life now in a way that honors God so that you can have a marriage later that will honor God. That's what you need to do. If you're married, let's talk about you. If you're married, this is what your decree, your commitment needs to be. I will always seek the one with my two. I will always seek the one with my two. Real quickly, that first scripture that we read in Matthew says that what God joins together, no one else can take apart, right? What God joins together, no one else can take apart. It doesn't say when you make a commitment and try really hard and discipline yourself, you will never come apart. That's not what it says. So it says if you're married, you've got to seek God together because it is God that does the miracle of making two one. And so if you're married, you must seek the one with your spouse. Now, if you don't do that, this is one of the ways you know that you're not doing that, because you're like, well, we go to church. We both acknowledge God as God. We both believe the Bible, so I guess we're doing it. This is one of the ways you know if you're really doing it. Is this issue of idolizing or demonizing? Because this is what happens when you say, God, you're supposed to be my one. You're the only one that can actually meet my needs, but I'm going to move you over, and I'm going to look to my spouse to meet my needs. When you do that, this is what happens. You idolize them. You say, you can fulfill me, you can complete me, you can encourage me and make me the person I'm supposed to be. You can do that, and you put them up on this pedestal, and you idolize your spouse. If you haven't figured it out, they're going to let you down, right? They're not going to come through for you. They cannot fulfill that obligation. They are not capable of doing that in your life. And so what happens is you idolize them, and then they fail, and then you demonize them. And you say, you never do this enough, you always do this, you can never do this right. And so then, what you were expecting them to now do for your life, you demonize them because they didn't do it. And so if you do that in your life, and I'm sure that you do it to a certain degree, you do it to a certain level, you have these expectations, they don't meet them, how horrible are they? You do that. I do that. That's something that we all as married couples have to contend with. So if that's happening in your life in any area, I got to tell you, you're putting the number 2 is the number 1. Only God can meet those needs in your life. You've got to do it right. Seek the 1 with your 2. Let's talk about how do we seek God? What does it look like in your life as a married couple to seek God together? 1 Chronicles 28 verse 9 says, "Worship and serve him with your whole heart and a willing mind. For the Lord sees every heart and knows every plan and thought. If you seek him, you will find him." If you seek him, you will find him. Let me just encourage you in your marriage relationship right now. It is not too late for you. Your marriage is not too far gone. You are not too separated. There is not too much junk in your past to get over. If you seek God, you will find him. And Scripture says what God brings together, the 2 becoming 1, no one can take apart. It's not too late for you. There is still hope. You can have a marriage that is fulfilling and that meets the needs it's supposed to. If you seek him, you will find him. Start looking for God. You know, here's the thing is that when you, guys, let me just talk to you guys for a second. I'm more into electronics than sports, so let me use the big screen TV as an example, right? Like a 65-inch Vizio, right? Like the built-in internet, Hulu, all that stuff right on it. I mean, that would be awesome, right? And so let's say you want one, okay? Because that's not a stretch. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you do want one. So let's say the big, an LED, so it's like that thick, right? Like, how do they do that? That's like parting the Red Sea miracle right there. So here's the thing, is guys, you want the big screen TV. You're into sports, let's say it's golf clubs, but follow me. So here's the thing, is you're seeking this thing. If you're like me, you're going to be going to Amazon, you're going to be going to Deals America, you're going to be going to all these places, and you're going to be looking for the best deal. You're going to be comparing what Best Buy has to others, Cons, or whoever it may be. You're going to be seeking this TV. And before long, you're going to find it. And you're going to buy it, and then you're going to watch the game on it, right? And so here's the thing. If you seek it, you will find it. Ladies, maybe you're my wife, maybe it's not for you. She loves trying new recipes. She's on Pinterest all the time looking for new recipes. If you follow her, you'll see her pin all sorts of stuff, and you're thinking, no wonder Jesse has gained so much weight. And it is true. It's true. And so here's the thing, is that if you're looking for something hard enough, you're going to find it. You're going to. And the same is true with God. As a husband and as a wife, when you make this commitment and you say from this day forward, no matter what we've done in the past, no matter what our relationship is like, from this day forward, we're going to seek God. I guarantee you, you're going to find him. And when you find him, he's going to start doing a work in your heart. Husband, he's going to start changing your heart. Wife, he's going to start changing your heart, and your marriage will begin to transform. Because if you seek him, you will find him. So let's talk about this. Number 1, how are we going to seek God? Number 1, we will make room for God in our thoughts. Husbands, wives, together, you are going to make room for God in your thoughts. It starts in your mind. Psalms 10 verse 4 says, "In his pride, the wicked does not seek God. In all his thoughts, there is no room for God. He says to himself, nothing will shake me. I will always be happy and never have trouble." That's what a wicked person thinks. And if you're thinking in your marriage you don't need God, you got it covered, you don't. And I don't think that's a big surprise to any of you, that you really don't have what it takes in your marriage. So what you're going to have to do is in your thoughts, you're going to have to make room for God. Instead of thinking you can figure it out, instead of thinking you can make the right decisions, you can say the right words, instead of thinking if I do this, I'll figure this out, they're going to respond this way, and this is going to happen. Instead of that, make room for God in your thoughts, and you start seeking God in your thoughts, saying, God, how can I do this? You start saying, God, give me the ideas to speak properly to my spouse. God, give me the ideas to come home with the right attitude. God, give me the ideas to create an atmosphere where we seek you together. God, start it in my mind. You're going to have to make room in your thoughts for God. And you can do that. I can do that. Number 2, this is a commitment that you need to make if you're going to seek God. Number 2, some of you guys want to fill in this blank with something else, okay? It's not have sex, okay? It is not. It is, we will pray together every day, okay? So you can write down pray there. Under it if you want, you can put. Anyway, so number 2, we will pray together every day. Husbands, wives, this is huge. I cannot overemphasize this enough. And for some of you, maybe the ladies, you're like, yes. And the guy's like, no. And some of you ladies are like, that's what I want. I want him to initiate the spiritual strength that we need to have in this family. And maybe the lady is really wanting that, and the guy's like, that's just weird, okay? And so let me just explain this. And it doesn't have to be strange. It doesn't have to be weird. It should actually be very common and very natural. And so guys, don't push back. Listen to this, okay? You're going to pray for each other, with each other, every day. And I was thinking about this with Angela and I, and it's not some legalistic thing where, beep, 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 beep. Okay, it's 8:30, let's hold hands and let's pray. You know, it's not like that. It's more natural. It should be more natural. I mean, if you do that and you got a schedule, it works for you, great. It would not work for us. But this is what we do. I was trying to think. We've been married for almost 13 years, about 12 and a half years now. And I know I got married when I was like 14. So, but we've been married, actually I was 20, but that's not funny. I was really 20. And I was trying to think in our lives if there's been a day that we've actually been together and haven't prayed together. And I honestly, I'm not sure if there has been. There's been, of course, times that we've been apart for weeks and hadn't talked to each other on the phone every day or any of that. But I was trying to think, and in the last 13 years of our lives, I cannot think of one day that we've actually been together and not had an opportunity to pray together. Most of the time, it's over a meal, and that counts. That's okay. If that's the only time you pray together, then that's all right. But every day, pray together. And this is what it, more than just that time of when you're, praying for a meal, more than that, as you're going throughout your day and you're thinking about your spouse, you talk to God about your spouse. That's praying for them. Not just praying with them together. You can be separated by miles and still pray for your spouse. And still pray with your spouse. For some couples, what maybe you should do is you should list out 3 or 4 things happening in your family. Say, we want to pay off this debt. Then together, we're going to pray about this throughout our weeks. And so you could be separate, you could be at one end or the other end of the city, and you could pray about those things. You could say, we're going to pray about our children, we're going to pray about this family member, we're going to pray about our church, we're going to pray about these things. And you could list out 5 things, and you could pray with your spouse together, even when you're separate. And that still counts. But this is the thing, is find out what works for you. If you're not doing this, start. If you're not doing this, start. And I'll tell you why. Listen to what it says in 2 Chronicles chapter 17, or chapter 7, verse 14. It says, if my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven, will forgive their sins, and heal their land. I want to broaden that just for a second and say, if a husband and a wife who are called by his name will humble themselves, will pray, and will seek his face, then God's going to hear you, and God's going to heal your marriage. That is what's going to happen. Have this attitude of always lifting your spouse up, always lifting your marriage up in prayer. Seek God. Instead of worrying, instead of being in fear, instead of getting angry, pray. Now, I know some of you, you're in a relationship where maybe one of you is saved, the other one doesn't even go to church. Pray. Pray to God for your spouse. Pray to God for your family. Pray to God for your relationship. Pray. And trust and believe God to intervene and to move in your lives. Pray every day. Listen to this statistic. This group, Family Life, did a survey of thousands of Christian couples. And this is what they came up with. If you want to write this down, you even can. Fewer than 8% of Christian couples pray. 92% of Christian couples do not pray together. 92% do not pray together. 8% of Christian couples pray together. Get this. Of the 8% that pray together, fewer than 1% divorce. Of the 8% that pray together, 99% of them stay married for a lifetime. Maybe you're logical, maybe you're a thinker, you're not very emotional, and you want to think about, okay, do you want to get married and have less than a 50% chance of making it? Or do you want to live your life by what we're learning today and have a 99% chance of making it? Pray together. And here's the reason why, is it's really hard to get mad and angry and swear and cuss at somebody you're praying for. It is. It's really hard to have an affair with someone else when you're praying for your spouse. It's really hard to get addicted to pornography and have that addiction in your life when you're praying for your spouse. When you pray for your spouse, when you begin to seek God, then everything else starts to fall in line because you're seeking the one with your two. And God begins to move in a way that otherwise he wouldn't in your life. Number 3, if you're taking notes, number 3, we will include God in everything. We will include God in everything. Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, say all your ways. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Include God in everything in your life. With your marriage, if you're parents and as a married couple, you're rearing your children and training your children, then include God in that. In your finances, how you spend money, how you budget, include God in that. In every area of life. When you fight, when you argue, include God in that. Everything. With the in-laws, especially with the in-laws, include God in that. Include God in every area of your life. Don't lean to your own understanding. Don't figure it out yourself. Don't come up with your own plan how you're going to make your marriage work. Include God in everything. And this is what I want to emphasize as we close, is that in order for us to seek God together, what we need to do is we need to have God woven together in every part of our lives. As a married couple, as a husband, as a wife, God should be woven together in every area of our lives. And this is not making God a priority. I do not want you to make God a priority. I want you to make God the center of everything. That's what I'm talking about. As a husband, as a wife, everything we do, God is at the center. Every decision that we make, every choice that we decide, every action that we take, every decision we make, everything we do, where we live, where we go, everything. God is the center of it all. How we're going to resolve our conflict, God's at the center of that. God is the center of it all. If you do that, if you make this commitment as a husband, as a wife, to seek God, then what Jesus said in Matthew is going to be true. That two really will become one. And what God puts together, no one can take apart. Let's pray.